Today, we're going to be talking about the obstacle is the way. There's so many lessons that I could share with you guys, but I'm going to be sharing with you the 7 biggest lessons that I took away from this book. Okay, so number 1 is perception. The book defines perception as how we see and understand what occurs around us and what we decide these events mean. You see, each of us chooses the way that we perceive things. So it's important to ask ourselves whether our perception is actually giving us perspective or whether our perception is actually causing the problem. You see, each of us comes across obstacles. That's just life. But what is most important is not necessarily what these obstacles are, but how we choose to see them and respond to them. Where one person sees crisis, another person sees opportunity. With the right perspective, everything that happens to us can be used as a way to move us forward. Okay, so the second biggest lesson is the power of choice. So a quote from the book that I actually went through and highlighted was a quote by Marcus Aurelius. Choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been. One of the most powerful stories in the book that really sums up this idea of the power of choice is the true story about a man named Reuben Carter, aka the Hurricane, who was wrongly accused because of his ethnicity for a crime that he didn't commit. Triple homicide, and was sentenced to 3 life sentences. Now, most people, given such a heavy hand like this, would most likely give up right then and there. But not Carter. Instead of breaking down, Carter declined to surrender the freedoms that were innately his. His attitude, his beliefs, and his choices. No matter what he was faced with in prison, Carter maintained that he still had choices. He told himself, I may not have wanted this to happen to me, but I decide how it will affect me. No one else has that right. So he chose to use every second of his energy studying books on law, philosophy, and history. He maintained the belief that no matter what, he was not only going to leave the prison a free man, but a better person because of it. And it paid off, because after 19 years and 2 trials, Carter was able to successfully overturn his trial and left the prison a free man. Okay, so now onto the third biggest lesson. Control your emotions. You see, when negative situations come up in our life, what most of us tend to do is get ourselves lost in worry, which of course is only natural, but not really helpful to our situation. Instead, Holiday suggests that when we worry, we should instead use the advice of Gavin DeBecker and ask ourselves these 2 questions. What am I choosing not to see right now? And what important things are missing because I'm choosing to worry over introspection, alertness, or wisdom? Or as Holiday puts it, does getting worried really provide you with more options? Most likely, the answer is no. So don't waste your time worrying. Instead, take action, which is our next big lesson. You see, what's the main thing that we all do when problems come up in our lives? We ignore them. We pretend they don't exist, but we know deep down that this isn't going to make the situation any better. Instead, what we need to do is act, because the problems in our lives aren't just going to solve themselves. It's up to each of us to do something about them. And that takes us on to the 5th biggest lesson, which is to break the situation down into smaller parts. Now, at the time of my life when I was reading this book, this idea literally changed everything for me and is something that I've still continued to use into this day. Basically, what you do is you focus on breaking the problem down into smaller, more manageable parts. By focusing on one task at a time, completing it, and then moving on to the next one. One day at a time. Under this process, we no longer need to worry because what was once a mammoth task is now just a series of component parts. One of the best analogies in the book that just really stuck with me was Ryan Holiday's analogy that the problems in our life are like algebra equations. Think about it, the very first time your teacher gave you an algebra equation, it was just a bunch of symbols and unknowns. and you most likely thought that you'd never be able to solve it. But once you took a breath, broke the problem down, you were able to isolate its variables, solve them, and all that was left was the answer. The exact same thing can be done with the problems in your life. Okay, so the sixth biggest lesson in this book is to find the good in the situation. Because no matter how bad a situation may be, there is always some good in it. Holiday believes that cheerfulness in all situations of our lives, good or bad, is extremely important. I highlighted a quote from the book that I think really sums up this idea. We don't get to choose what happens to us, but we can always choose how we feel about it. And why on earth would you choose anything but feeling good? Okay, so the seventh biggest lesson, and probably the one that had the biggest impact on me, is find your why. There's a quote from the book which is actually from the incredible book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, which I'd also recommend that all of you read. And the quote goes like this: "He who knows the why of his existence can bear almost any how." Holiday teaches that the best way to see through the obstacles in your lives is to dedicate to something larger than yourself. Holiday also teaches that we can use the negative situation that we are in and all we learn from it to educate and inspire others. He also suggests taking the focus off yourself and instead focus on those who need us now or who may need us in the future. By being strong for others, it makes us stronger. Okay guys, well, there you have it. There are the 7 biggest lessons from this book. I've given you the 7 best lessons, but there is so much in this book. So I would highly recommend that you all go out there and read this book. I've actually got a link for it in the description, so you can pick yourself up a copy of this book. Okay guys, well, thanks for watching. I really hope that you've enjoyed one of my first book reviews. So be sure to hit that like button if you've enjoyed some of the lessons that I've shared with you guys here today. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, then consider subscribing to this channel. Thanks guys, and I'll see you next time.